Mm. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. We warmly welcome you to this session organized by the Center for Mexican Studies of UNAM in the United Kingdom. My name is Grecia Suarez, and I'm the Logistics Coordinator at UNAM UK. It is a pleasure to accompany you today and introduce our speaker. We also are joined by Dr. Antonio del Rio, Director of the Center for Mexican Studies, UNAM UK, who will be supporting us in moderating the Q&A session. This seminar forms part of our series Mexican Women in Science, organized in the framework of the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Through this initiative, we aim to highlight and recognize the contributions of Mexican women across scientific and technological disciplines while fostering spaces for dialogue and reflection around their work. Today, we are honored to welcome Dr. Dulce María Arias Lizárraga, Senior Researcher at the Institute of Renewable Energies from UNAM. Dr. Arias holds a degree in biochemical engineering with a specialization in environmental biochemistry and a PhD in environmental engineering from the Universitat Politécnica de Catalunya in Spain. Throughout her career, she has participated in numerous national and European research projects focused on green technologies for the treatment and valorization of waste and wastewater. Her work centers on low-cost wastewater treatment technologies, coupled bioenergy systems, and the production of biofuels such as bioethanol, biogas, and biohydrogen. Her research output includes more than 30 articles published in JCR Index journals, and she currently serves on the editorial board of scientific reports. She has been a Level 1 member of Mexico's National System of Researchers since 2020. Today, she will be presenting a talk entitled From Wastewater to Bioenergy, a multidisciplinary research journey with microalgae. We kindly invite you to share your questions in the YouTube chat through this session. And at the end of the presentation, Dr. Del Rio will moderate the Q&A and share your questions with the speaker. Dr. Arias, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation, and it's a pleasure for me to share with you about this journey, well, with microalgae and working within the water energy nexus and trying to put our contribution to the science. So today we are going to talk about the wastewater to bioenergy and some of our investigations carried out at the Institute for Renewable Energies here in Mexico. So now, well, we have the wastewater in all the world. The wastewater, it's an issue that the governments, even the UN, it's taking very seriously, and all the governments should take care through wastewater treatment plants. And these plants here are like can be conventional, and the conventional plants treat the wastewater and then look for reaching the numbers, the limits of regulation of each country. And this, in the conventional situation or model, they use these technologies that are very expensive in energy inputs. They produce pollution because they release CO2, for example, and they require high energy supplies. So this is the linear model that all the world, the most of the world is using, but we are trying to work into a circular model that we have the wastewater, and then we can take care of that through some technologies, for example, the microalgae systems, that they clean the water, or they get the limits of regulations of, well, for example, Mexican regulations, but the biomass can be transformed into several products, for example, some biofuels and other products as bioplastics and non-food byproducts. And in this case, in the circular model, we are trying to get a resource recovery and resource renewable energies, of course, and a sustainable system. So the wastewater, it's a responsibility for all the governments and all the people. It's a social and in social and environmental terms, but also an opportunity to get some byproducts of high value. So here at the UNAM, we are trying to get our work in that hypothesis that the wastewater can be transformed into a platform for simultaneous treatment and bioenergy production using this kind of systems. And all this year, we have worked in microalgae and cyanobacteria cultivation, using and valorizing wastewater, and then get some valuable products as biofuels and bioenergy. So in this context, we work into a multidisciplinary framework where we have several projects. We work several projects based on wastewater treatment with microalgae to produce biohydrogen, biofertilizers, biochar, in improving the photobioreactor design. And also in the last year, we have worked very hard in bioelectrochemical systems using microalgae. And all the environmental problems, because they are very complex, is not it's a mistake or a short-term thing in that one discipline or area can take care of that. So that's why we are working together within an interdisciplinary perspective with my colleagues there at the Institute, and we involve environmental engineering or biotechnology, microbiology, with material science, electrochemistry, and optics to improve these systems and getting the upscale systems to become a reality. So why we are working with microalgae? Because natural-based systems is not only include microalgae, it's also the wetlands, for example, that are very good systems that can treat the wastewater but also obtain products. But we work with microalgae because they are amazing organisms. Well, in this case, well, when I say microalgae, we are considering green algae, eukaryotic ones, like golden algae, red algae, and also prokaryotic ones, like cyanobacteria. And these microorganisms are very, very amazing because they are very diverse. They can be unicellular and multicellular. They are very efficient, capturing CO2 from the environment, high productivity. They don't compete with human food, and they grow in all types of habitats, including wastewater. And they can accumulate high amounts of macromolecules like proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, etc. So in this case of system, considering microalgae as microorganisms that can remove the pollutants from the wastewater, they are not working alone treating the wastewater, but they work together with bacteria, and the bacteria remove the organic matter and then release CO2, and the microalgae uptake that CO2 and release oxygen and consume the nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus. And in this way, we can get clean water, a water that achieve the limits of the regulation of each country. In Mexico, we have some regulations, and also the harvested biomass can be transformed in several biofuels. So in this talk, I would like to consider four or research that have been done in the last years that we are trying to improve and trying to explain how microalgae can be the starting point of biorefineries using the wastewater. And well, in the first place, I will talk about an amazing investigation that we made with the optics group. And here we try to improve the design of photobioreactors outdoors using wastewater and evidencing or testing the effect of different wavelengths in the microalgae productivity, microalgal pigments, and also the wastewater treatment. And in here was very interesting there because the light quality affects the growth kinetics of our microalgae. The outdoor variability is critical for that, and the design of all the reactors, considering all the reactors, must consider the wavelengths effect. So in this case, we evaluate during 4 months of working with this. We check the operational aspects of that, and we found that the light colors dictate the physiology and nutrients uptake. For example, also the thickness, the 4-inch photobioreactors optimize growth rates, while the 6-inch photobioreactors enhance nitrification. That is a very critical issue considering this as a wastewater treatment system. Also, we found that this spectrum should be taken care in order to get specific compounds, for example, pigments or carbohydrates or other or productivity itself. So from that, we take all the information in order to improve this and try to make a biorefinery concept and trying to transform this wastewater into byproducts. And we follow this line. So we try to get microalgae and then produce biofuels and then get another products within a circular context. So in this case, we get the microalgae growing in wastewater or treating wastewater in the photobioreactors, and then we put in a biorefinery context by harvesting the biomass and drying and then pre-treat and then submitted to a process to obtain a biofuels. But we didn't stop there. So at the end, all the process, biological or thermochemical, they have some waste. So we consider all the waste of the system in order to get another products as well. So in this case, we optimize the production of biomass with carbohydrates because at the end, carbohydrates is the substrate for dark fermentation in order to get hydrogen. And then we test different wastewater there. It was a very terrific study with all this water, and we get a lot of information of that. Then we submit to harvesting and the watering the biomass, and then also optimize other aspects before submitting the biomass into the dark fermentation. And here we get some moderate results in terms of hydrogen production. But the important here was considering the waste, because we have the hydrogen, but we also have a liquid and solid waste of that process. So in this case, we try to get everything to obtain byproducts, and this was very interesting to get the solid waste transformed into activated carbon. And in this case, this activated carbon can be introduced in a wastewater treatment plant as filtration, for example, and can be used also as material for supercapacitor or batteries or microbial fuel cells that we are going to talk later about that. And also the liquid waste that we collect there was very with a lot of concentration of nutrients that can be used for the growth of plants. And in our case, we try to improve the growth of the tomato that is very important for Mexican food here. And we get a very amazing investigation integrating all these steps in order to get a sustainable process. Our next step or after that big study, because was very big with a lot of colleagues working and trying to get this a success research. We start also with bioelectrochemical system because we also try to get electricity from microalgae. We are trying to get several biofuels and bioenergy sources from these amazing microorganisms. So in this case, well, I would like to start with the term of bioelectrochemical system that is basically, well, where we can take the example of microbial fuel cells that have more time in the research spot. So in here, we have a two-chamber reactor, and we have anode biofilms that the bacteria are colonizing an electrodes or conductor material, forming a biofilm to consume organic matter, oxidates, release protons to another chamber, and electrons. And in this case, they eat the organic matter, the wastewater, and the bacteria release electrons during the metabolic oxidation of that. And then we can get an energy recovery where these electrons travel through an external circuit, generating a direct electric current from waste. So in this case, this is with bacteria. That is a lot of people it's working on that, but we are trying to get the microalgae doing that. And in this case, it's not oxidizing organic matter, but by the action of photosynthesis. So in the photosynthesis, they transform the luminic, the light from the sun into chemical energy. So in this case, the photosynthesis is making an electronic flow, and then we are trying to get those electrodes from inside to the cell to outside to the electrodes and in the circuit in similar way that microbial fuel cells. So in this case, we have made some very interesting experiments on that. In the first place, we test electrodes with titanium dioxide. We try to improve this and see what happens if we include mixed microalgal bacterial culture using real wastewater. And we test this in a biophotovoltaic cell, as we can see here. So the mixed microalgal and bacterial culture was at the anode, and then trying to get some electrons from inside. So at the end, we have a wastewater treatment that include the good results in terms of nutrients and organic matter. Considering this system with microalgae and bacteria. And in fact, the titanium dioxide was not different to the control, that we have microalgae there and bacteria. But we have only some differences with the phosphorus one, but the other was better with microalgae taking the nutrients there. And in terms of energy production, well, the algal bacteria interaction significantly enhanced electricity generation. Higher open circuit potential were observed in algal-based systems, and lower internal resistance confirmed the improved electrochemical performance of the consortium. But in fact, we found that titanium dioxide nanotubes included in the anode was very important to increase the electricity production. So at the end, this study showed that the materials can be improved, and the biofilm is very important for the release and transfer of electrons to the system. And then also, this was an amazing research because we get a lot of questions after that. So instead of getting some answers and then, yes, we can do it, and the microalgae. No, in fact, we have a lot of questions that led to several experiments that have confirmed and respond all the questioning that we have. So after that, we focus in the biofilm engineering. So in this case, because the electricity production depends on the interactions and the interactions between microalgae and bacteria and the electrodes. We try to improve these anodes and try to get better results and improve the biofilm production, the formation and the electricity production. So it was quite interesting that the growth medium for microalgae and the wastewater, the wastewater didn't affect the production of biofilm that can be transformed into electrons there. So in this case, we found very interesting that the voltage increased with the wastewater when we use wastewater to grow the biofilm. So the future studies that we made is that focus in improving the biofilm formations, and then we can use several materials in this way. So an interesting study of that was made with my colleague, Dr. Patrick Okoye, that it's his work is focusing valorizing waste through thermochemical methods to produce activated carbon, for example. And in this case, we try to get that activated carbon from agave waste to generate these electrodes and then use it as the anode in biophotovoltaics devices. So in this case, Dr. Patrick valorized agave waste and then make the activation of this carbon. And we try to get the better conditions of pyrolysis, for example, to grow the microalgae. So in this case, we didn't use microalgae and bacteria together. We tried with one in order to understand better the processes, and then trying to get the most information we have, and later to do the wastewater treatment with that. So in this case, we found very interesting results in this way. We have some data to get the better carbon that it's very suitable for microalgae there. And we found that a stability in this carbon. Well, in fact, in all the research from other people, it's found that carbon is always the best option for microalgae, but maybe it's not the best in terms of the production of electricity. So in this case, we valorize this agave waste and then try to use it but maybe it's better to cover with another nanotubes or nanoparticles that can improve this production, because at the end the microalgae is always preferring this kind of electrodes in order to grow. So our work here, it's based or have demonstrated that the biorefinery is possible. Maybe we are trying these points, starting points in small studies, that we get the hydrogen, and then we can get some gases there, the biogas, and then valorize the waste of the process obtaining biofuel. So like we make that, we produce biofertilizers and then carbon materials from a treatment train at the end, because we were trying to valorize the wastewater into valuable products. Well, the hydrogen, considering the hydrogen, but also this process is producing some pollutants at the end. So we were trying to cover all of this. And after the projects with the bioelectrochemical systems, it's showing that it's possible to get a simultaneous production of energy. Well, for example, we were getting this electricity production, but at the same time treating the wastewater in the same step. So not following a step and trying to cover all the points. So at the end, this is very important, and it's a starting point that we are taking and trying to improve within our work of research. So what are we doing now? So we are trying, well, the wastewater, all the projects that we make, we are trying to use the real wastewater to check all the conditions, the operational conditions. And we have shown that microalgae enable multi-product recovery. The biophotovoltaic systems are promising but emerging. In fact, we have worked these 3 years, but have a lot of potential. We are trying to get some projects international working on this, and a lot of people is starting working in these devices as well. So it's very interesting to get our contribution in order to get this scaling up, and then making this use as wastewater treatment system a reality. So in the future, we are trying to scaling up these systems. We are trying to make some experiments, the ones that I explained with the light, for example, to try these effects of wavelengths, for example, in the biophotovoltaic device, and well, get the better conditions, because at the end, what we found in the projects that outdoors with the different light spectrums conditions is that the spectrum, well, the wavelengths matters in the production of several things and physiology of microalgae. So we have the hypothesis also that this can be affect the photosynthetic systems in order to transfer the electrons from inside of the cell to the electrodes as well. So we are trying also in advanced materials in order to improve carbon materials that are suitable for microalgae, but improve from the point of view of solar cells, for example. And also, of course, now that IA, it's very important, also to control the reactor and trying to improve the conditions and reduce the use of experimental analysis on that to get the better control of these systems. So now we are trying to get a biorefinery context in microalgae systems and trying to get or change the paradigm of wastewater as responsibility and transform the wastewater into a resource that can be valorized. So, and that's all. Thank you very much for listening. And I hope you have some questions that can make a discussion.
Thank you very much, Dulce. Um, I I I really think that I know some of your work, but really you surprise me very frequently. And I am surprised that, for example, oxide of titanium is a poisonous for microorganisms, but your experiment show that increases the performance. Can you comment of this point?
Yeah, in fact, there are some minerals or compounds that are not good for well, in fact, the titanium dioxide itself is used as photocatalyst.
Mhm.
But the spectrum, well, because it's in a band gap that is not the ones that we use with microalgae. So the band gap that we use, or the type of light that we use with microalgae, it's very far from the numbers that they use, because I think it's activate the titanium dioxide activates in UV only. So we are not working in that spectrum, and it's safe. But in the case that it's activated, of course, it's going to be poisoned for microorganisms.
Okay. Thank you. I know that you're very aware about the scaling of your system, but which stage are most critical when scaling up microalgae-based bioenergy system?
Well, now the bioelectrochemical systems are like in the childhood, in the baby, are being baby. No? So it's very difficult to scale because there are many things that we don't know or we don't have clear. So that's why well, it's very good to work with the basics, science, for example, and understand. But at some point, we should take care the risk to get more higher volumes and know what is happening. So at the end, all the information missing is that the starting point for not scaling up the systems. So
Okay.
so that's why the multidisciplinary context is very useful for that, because there is a lot of information missing in basics and also in applied systems.
Okay. Then here we have another question. Is related with this topic that you're taking. How close are these technologies to large-scale implementation?
Yeah, well, the biophotovoltaics is very far still, but we are putting the contribution, the small contribution to that, because if we see the research of many centers, they focus in very small systems, very, very small, even 10 milliliters. So for example, us working in 100 was like can be seen like a small, but instead is very challenged. So I think the investigation now should be to test these systems in a very big scale, because if not, we are not going to go anywhere, and we will stay also in the small volumes. It's very also well, now we are collecting information and sharing with other colleagues, and then trying to do our best. But if microbial fuel cells still is considered in the childhood, So these biophotovoltaics that it's have very, very small time in the research spot. We need a lot of things to do. We need to do a lot of things, I mean, but it's still far from that. But we are working. We are not sitting only.
Okay, and this seminar are listened and for many students. What do you think that is the role of the students and early career researchers in advancing this field? How they can contribute? What are the topics that they need to start covering?
Yeah, well, there is well, a lot of things to do. A lot of things can be done from different areas. So if you are in a career like physics or engineering, environmental engineering, chemical engineering, all of us can contribute from our expertise and can contribute with something. So in this with biological and biotechnological systems, there are a lot of things that we can work. So for example, from the point of view of control, optimization and control, things that we don't know can be done from different areas. So sometimes what I recommend to the students also is to not don't be afraid of entering in something or studying something that is out of your environment. So, for example, maybe the microalgal stuff and wastewater, it's far from people from optics, for example, but it's very necessary. It's very necessary. So, what I recommend is don't be afraid, take the risk. Maybe you can be the difference between these systems never upscale and the upscaling of the systems. So this is what I think and what I recommend for the early career students.
Okay, thank you, Dulce. And also a new question say this is using photovoltaics in homes was a dream 40 years ago. Now it is a reality with economic and environmental benefits. Can you comment on the possibility of treating wastewater at the sites where it is used? Do you see that the possibility of treating our wastewater at home in the future?
Yeah, well, that also it's a reality. There are some systems that can be included in your home, for example, constructed wetlands. It's a good option for communities that are far from the big cities, for example. And this is very possible. And also, big projects have been done in Europe, trying to get sustainable systems. In the case of these wetlands, for example, also microalgal wastewater treatment systems as a hydrate algal ponds have been implemented. But at the end, all these systems require a knowledge. So it's if you are going to put some of these systems, you should know that the maintenance is important. To get the right design, it's important. But in a general term, the wetlands and the microbial, the microalgal based wastewater treatment systems are established technologies that can be designed, can be calculated, and then established at home. But require some work that maybe not all the people it's in this position to do it.
And this system can be used also for produce energy.
Yeah, well, this would be necessary more knowledge than the wastewater treatment, but also the collection of the energy and then the production of energy in the case that can be employed. For example, if we have at home a microalgal based, and then we harvest, and then we try to use that microalgae in a digester, for example, can be done. And also anaerobic digestion is a technology that is already established. So it's not a problem with that. But we have to know how to operate and see the possible problems and how to get the solution of that. And well, it's possible, yes. And well, in the case of electrochemical system, it's a little bit complex because we don't know how it's not established now, but can be done also. All the microbial fuel cells itself, for example, can be coupled with constructed wetlands and then produce some energy to start a light, a little light at least, or a sensor. And that technologies can be done, but require some knowledge that we are collecting right now. So it's a reality, can be done, but it requires more science to get established. And yeah.
Yeah, you want to
Okay.
comment something more? I remember that you work not with specific algas or microorganisms designed to do this. I remember that you collect these organisms. Can you talk about something about these collection procedures, or how you select, or how you maybe try to get the better mix of these microorganisms?
Yeah, well, when I start working in microalgae systems there at year, it was very funny because we went to a place where the people goes to swim to collect the microalgae. The microalgae was there, and then we take from that place and then take to the lab. And in the lab, we start growing with the wastewater that we have in at the institute. And from that, we start with our consortium. But now we have a bank from a single cells from microalgae and cyanobacteria to get the difference and to know what happened if we used one or another. For example, we work now with Colestrella a lot, that it's an eukaryotic green algae, but also with Formidium, that it's a cyanobacteria, and that we are knowing, well, we get to know what happened in terms of biofilm formation. For example, Colestrella last 30 days to grow the biofilm, to get some response, electrical response. And in the case of Formidium, it's very fast. It's like 1 week or 2 that we get a very big biofilm, and then we get some response. But at the beginning, well, using wastewater is not for having only one cell. It's because the biological pollution is also in the wastewater, and we have to consider that. So at the beginning, well, in the case of bioelectrochemical systems, we start with that collection that we make from that side that it's for the fun of the people, and then we start working on that. But many questions were there, so about the population. So now we went back in research and start with one single cell and knowing what is happening. So if you want to start a microalgal system in your home, you can take the green dirty of any waterfall or something, and then start your own system, collecting and improving the environment. So I also said it's good to take a tree, to put a tree in your house, but it's better if you have a photobioreactor to collect, to clean the environment.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dulce. I think that we need to learn more things and we need people to work with these topics, as you
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah, from all the areas. All the areas can be very valuable in order to get this system better. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you, Dulce, and thank you for all the audience. Um, we are very pleased that you share with us these seminars, the Mexican Women in Science series. And thank you again. And we wish you an excellent day and an afternoon in the place where you are. Thank you very much.